On average, you'll have to wait 31 days to see an OBGYN. And if you're dealing with an infection or outbreak, you know you need care fast. That's where WISP comes in. Connect with a U.S. licensed provider online and pick up safe, effective treatment at your local pharmacy that same day. Plus, get birth control and more delivered in all 50 states. Take control with comprehensive sexual and reproductive care, all from your phone. WISP. That's hellowisp.com. The waiting room can wait.
Dear old work platform, it's not you, it's us. Actually, it is you. Endless onboarding? Constant IT bottlenecks? We've had enough. We need a platform that just gets us. And to be honest, we've met someone new. They're called Monday.com, and it was love at first onboarding. Their beautiful dashboards, their customizable workflows got us floating on a digital cloud 9. So no hard feelings, but we're moving on. Monday.com, the first work platform you'll love to use.
Welcome back to another episode of Investies. I'm your host, Linda Garcia. This week on the podcast, I am doing another episode of Talk Me Off the Ledge. But before we get into what happened in the Texas legislature this past week, let me tell you really quickly what happened in the stock market. On Monday in the stock market, we had a down day. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we started to see a really strong recovery. A strong recovery for 1 week. Now, we saw the Dow go up 5.83%, the S&P 500 7.97%, and the NASDAQ 10.55%. I know I tell you all this all the time, but I like to remind you that on average, in a normal setting, the stock market increases anywhere from 5 to 8%. Okay, this is on average for the S&P 500. A little higher typically for the NASDAQ and a lower for the Dow. But we did in 1 week what the S&P 500 on average does in an entire year. So we are seeing somewhat of a recovery. I anticipate more volatility to take place as the months continue to unfold. We are still waiting to see what happens when tariffs actually kick in. I have not paid attention to anything that has been taking place in the stock market at all this week. What I do believe that is happening, though, is that we have kicked off earnings the week before last. And so I assume that a lot of what is coming in, at least this past week, is in part due to what we are hearing in earnings. Now, I do want to apologize for not keeping up with the stock market. I can't. I just can't. It is physically impossible for me to do so. And for me to come on here and try to give you an episode, a full episode on what is happening in the market means that I have to do an entire week's worth of research because I have been off the market and fully submerged in the Texas legislature with no space for me to even consider what the hell is taking place in the market. And I know you all will understand when I tell you that I don't want to spend an hour or 2 or 3 researching what took place over the week when I have to still pack for 5 days being in the Texas house next week. I have to get in my car. I have to drive back to Austin, which is time consuming and also exhausting. But more importantly, that would mean that I'm spending more time away from my son. And right now, every moment I can get with my son and every moment I can get in bed, quite frankly, is very valuable to me. And so I really, truly hope that you understand. It is becoming very clear to me that in these next 30 days, it is going to be impossible for me to juggle both the podcast and the Texas house. And honestly, my constituents and the families of Texas deserve that I give them my 100% during the week. And they also deserve that I rest as much as I can on the weekends so that I can come back and be somewhat recharged, somewhat rested, so that I can execute going into my committees, which start sometimes at 8 a.m, and then we break and I go onto the House floor and we spend 8 to 10 hours on the House floor. And after we're done with the House floor, we go back into committees. And sometimes I'm supposed to be in 2 committees at the same time. And then there's constituents coming in, and somewhere in between all of that, I am supposed to be studying bills that I am voting on and making sure that we are in proper alignment with our votes. It's a lot. And I am in complete admiration of my team, my colleagues, their teams. I am moving through this process, and as I'm moving through it and executing it, I still don't understand how we're getting it all done. Not only that, but the experience is incredibly emotionally charged, as you heard last week on the episode. This is real families. These are real lives. These are real people that we are impacting by how we vote, how we communicate, what we are fighting about, what we make political instead of making about Texas families. All of that is so fucking draining. And then we still have to come in and put our best foot forward and understand all of this complicated literature, try to make sense of it, and hope that we are voting what is best for our constituents. And then, if you are a Dem, we're voting what is best for our constituents, but we're losing our vote. That's really, really tough emotionally. We are getting our ass kicked every single day for hours at a time. And this is something that not only are we experiencing, but we have an audience on the outside witnessing. What they don't get to witness is the strategizing that is taking place. And while, yes, there are disagreements between our leadership and those that have been there for a really long time and want to see things being handled differently, what they don't get to see is when at the end we actually come together and make a decision and detonate a bomb that we had to detonate. What they don't get to see is how we have to sacrifice ourselves and understand that in that process of detonating this bomb, we're also blowing ourselves up. But at least we are stopping the very worst of things from hitting the floor, and we're delaying the process as much as we can. You know, I've always heard the criticism about those that have the privilege to criticize those in the arena, but not fully understanding the decision-making and the process that takes place for those that are actually in the arena. It is so easy for those that are watching us to speculate and point fingers, but nobody really understands the options that we have and what is driving us to make certain decisions. I am just in complete admiration of the leadership. All of the leadership across the board. I'm talking about the Democratic Party, by the way, just to be clear. I am in admiration, even when they disagree, their ability to be raw and honest with one another, and then somehow we come together at the very end and execute. And tomorrow will be another fight between ourselves, and we will try to mend it and move forward again. My hope is that when this session is over, we are all stronger for what we have had to have gone through in this session. I have no previous experience, so I don't know what to compare it to. All I know is that everyone around me that has been here before tells me this is the worst session I've ever been in. I am so sorry that you are moving through this. This is not normal. I don't know what is normal, but what I do know is that they're so hard on themselves, and their ability to do what we can with what we have really inspires me, truly. Every single member on the D side has a purpose, has a mission, has drive, and we don't all have the same mission. And I think that that's so important. And sometimes because we don't have the same mission, we don't agree. But what I am observing is that everybody's mission is necessary and equally as important.
Dear old work platform, it's not you, it's us. Actually, it is you. Endless onboarding? Constant IT bottlenecks? We've had enough. We need a platform that just gets us. And to be honest, we've met someone new. They're called Monday.com, and it was love at first onboarding. Their beautiful dashboards, their customizable workflows got us floating on a digital cloud 9. So no hard feelings, but we're moving on. Monday.com, the first work platform you'll love to use.
Hilton brings you new ways to stay, with experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
I said all of that for a couple of reasons. The most important reason is because I do think that it is valuable for you all to have the exposure of moving through this journey with me. I think that a lot of the times when we see and hear politicians, everything is so polished, and there's talking points, and there's cleanliness, and there's this role that is being executed. And what we don't get to see is the raw and the real that takes place behind all of the bullet points and the polished look. And one of the things that I promised myself as I moved through this was that I wanted to pull back the curtain. And so this is me taking another week to pull back the curtain and share with you a little bit about what I'm going through. Now, obviously, the second reason is because I want you to see that I cannot integrate myself right now in the stock market. I thought I was Superwoman at the beginning of this. I am clearly not Superwoman, nowhere near Superwoman. And what is very clear to me is that what's important are my constituents and Texas families. And so they deserve me at a 100%. And so I think that if I come to you with a new episode, if I have the space to do so in these next 30 days that are left in this session, that they will be tied to what I am experiencing, because then it will be a very easy conversation, much like the one we just had. I appreciate your patience with me throughout this experience. I do want to share a really big highlight. Before I became elected officially, I was working with Yaneli Espinal. She is known as Miss Be Helpful on Instagram. A lot of you may already know her because we do have shared audiences. She wrote a book on money as well called Mind Your Money. I highly recommend that you get her book. Go to her Instagram. If you don't know about her yet, follow her. She is my kindred spirit. We have been assigned the same mission. Different spaces, but the mission we are both assigned to is the same. She reached out as soon as she saw that I was going to become a state rep, and she said, hey, we're working on a financial literacy bill in the state of Texas already. We are looking for someone to carry the bill. Can you talk? And I said, absolutely, that's great, because we are drafting a bill as well pertaining to financial literacy. That isn't a secret. That is something that I have been talking about for over a year. When Yaneli shared with me her bill, I decided that her bill was so much more important than mine because she already had the experience of passing this bill in 5 other states at the point where we had spoken. I think it's now passed in 6 other states, but she had passed it already in 5, and she already had the system of how it should be executed, the resources for the teachers, teaching the financial literacy course. So I decided that I wasn't going to file my bill. Everyone told me that this is a big mistake. You need to file your own bills because then people can see that you have these bills and you've done this and you've done that. You can't just jump onto someone's bill. That's not the way you should do it. And you need to just have this documented under you. And I get that. That is the performative part of being a politician. But because I am not an experienced politician, nor am I a politician, I'm a public servant, and I'm also trying to be as efficient and as effective as possible, I decided that I was not going to file a bill, and I was going to be in constant contact with Yaneli. I did try to advocate for them to let me carry the bill, but because Yaneli and her team are also very passionate, like myself, about this topic, they did want someone that they could actually see passing the bill. And that's not necessarily a freshman. I did not take offense to that. I very carefully, with Yaneli and the lobby team that she hired, discussed potentially joint authoring the bill once they found the person that was going to carry the bill. They found the person. It was Chairman Ken King, a Republican. Now, it's important for us to understand that Republicans can pass bills because they are the majority. It is a simple game of math. And a lot of the times when you have Democrats working on bills for years that don't get passed, they will then give it over to a Republican, which then passes the bill. And at the end of the day, as long as the bill got passed and the Texas families get to benefit from the bill, then that is all that matters. And that was the approach that I was taking with this specific bill. I was so happy to hear that it was Ken King that was going to carry this bill. I love Chairman Ken King. I will say that with all of my chest. It has been such a great opportunity to joint author it. It's just him and I on this bill, and he got it passed. It is passed, and it makes me so happy. And I know to some people in the Texas House, they probably are rolling their eyes at how insignificant the bill is. But to me, this is one of the biggest steals. To me, this is what is missing from American households is financial literacy. To me, this is a solution to a massive problem. To me, not having financial literacy is why someone like Donald Trump got placed in office. So to me, this is a massive deal. And to me, I wanted for the very best bill on financial literacy to be passed. And so here we are with Chairman Ken King, who's a big deal in the Texas House and currently holds a lot of power with his chairmanship. And so I am really proud that we got to do this. And I am fucking proud that I'm a joint author on that bill. And I'm even more proud that it's Ken King that got it through the finish line, because sometimes it's not about the performance or the glory. It is truly about the policy that is going to change families. Right now, as it stands, there is a financial literacy bill. By the way, this is one that Ken King passed a few sessions ago, maybe last session or the session before last. But it is currently half a credit, and it gives teachers the option to teach financial literacy or economics. And what we are seeing is that teachers prefer to teach economics. And you and I both know that economics is not financial literacy. So we wanted to make sure to make financial literacy a standalone course. And right now, there are 27 states in the United States that have passed this bill. And so we will be the 28th state, maybe, fingers crossed. It's not all the way through the finish line. It is just through the House. And I believe we are going to vote on it either next week or the week after next in the Senate. So I will definitely keep you all posted. That is a very big win. Now, I do have two bills that I have laid out in committee, which just means that I have presented those two bills in committee. And one of those bills has been voted out of committee, which just means that it has passed committee and it will hopefully, maybe be scheduled for the House floor. However, that is not my priority bill. My priority bill was laid out the week before last. And tomorrow, Monday, because I'm recording this on Sunday, I will know if it was voted out of committee. And if it is, then I'm going to advocate as much as I can to get that bill on the House floor, because that is my number one priority bill. I will share what that bill is with you in another episode. On this episode, I wanted to share the win of House Bill 27. By the way, the first 150 bills, so the ones that are numbered House Bill 1 through 150, those are priority bills for the Speaker, and they are most likely to pass because they are the Speaker's priority bill. Now, originally, this bill had a completely different number, but there was some inside baseball taking place within the House, and it became a priority bill. And so I want you to see what a great decision it was for me to just not file my own bill and put all of my energy into Chairman Ken King's bill, joint author that bill. I also walked around the House floor and got a lot of folks to co-author the bill, which is just like a co-sign. I'm very proud of it. And so this week we celebrate House Bill 27 with Chairman Ken King. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Investies. I'm your host, Linda Garcia. Investies is a Cosmic Standard and In Luz We Trust production. A special thank you to the team, Asia Simpson, Eliza Smith, and Jacob Winnick.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.